All right, thank you everybody for being here. Welcome to this webinar about persistent identifiers, PIDs, and their use in research. So let me start as usual with a brief introduction. This webinar is taking place as part of the FedOSC Learning Community Data 101 learning cycle. And the FedOSC project overall is actually a federal ecosystem, a Belgian federal ecosystem project with the objective of promoting open science and fair data practices. To that end, we are working on proposing better digital services for open and fair science, on delivering training, which is why we're doing what we are doing today, and working on the policy framework of open science in our federal ecosystem. The FedOSC project is powered by a team of 5 data stewards and a battalion of partners in the federal scientific institutes, and we appreciate every support we can get from members of our community. We are working on the following work packages, and today we are talking about persistent identifiers, which actually play a dominant role in 2 of the work packages of the FedOSC project. Of course, today we're doing a training session, so this is in our training work package, but we are also working on proposing or reflecting on a PID strategy or infrastructure in the policy work package at the federal level. Without further ado, let's get started on the science of this training session. What is a PID and what does it do? As promised, we will be working in Mentimeter. So the Menti can be accessed through this barcode if you can scan it with a smartphone. There's also a link in the chat for you to click, or you can go to menti.com and type in the code that you see, the 8 numbers that you see right below the barcode here. So I'm just going to give you a few moments to connect to the Menti, and I will display the question in a moment for you to vote. We would like to know if you have an ORCID and if it is up to date, if you've been doing good with your ORCID. I see more people hopping in the Menti, so I will just give it a few seconds. Oh, someone has been pressing the little thumbs up button. That's great. All right, perfect. Just a few more seconds because we also have some additional people coming in. Thank you for your patience. We are on time, no worries. All right, let me display the question for you. I'm going to give you a few more seconds to respond. Do you have an ORCID and is it up to date? There's division in this crowd. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly show you the results by sharing my screen. It was advertised within our institute, says someone in the chat. Well, there you go. Okay, let me share the result real quick. So the majority of the people attending the webinar today, 60% actually have responded that yes, they have an ORCID and it is up to date. And then we have some people who don't even know what an ORCID is, which is brilliant. That's the reason we have these webinars. So thank you for being here. And then we have some people who are not sure their ORCID is up to date. So the program of the webinar is as follows. We will talk about the basics of PIDs, including ORCIDs. Actually, all those acronyms will make sense in just a second. And then we have 2 additional speakers from the federal ecosystem today that I will present in a few seconds. Afterwards, we will have an exercise, a hands-on exercise. We will guide you through the process of setting up your own ORCID identifier. So if you already have an ORCID and it is up to date, you will be free to disconnect earlier. But you can also stay and maybe reuse the exercise contents for your own colleagues if you want to do so. So the exercise will be proposed to everyone, but if you are already on top of your ORCID ID, then maybe you can afford to disconnect a little bit earlier, although we appreciate your presence, of course. Let me go back to the slideshow. And feel free to keep the Mentimeter open at this moment. All right, so I used a lot of acronyms this morning. Let me try and clarify everything. PID stands for persistent identifier. What is a persistent identifier and what does it do? Well, research is global, digital, and a little bit chaotic. According to different sources and different estimates, there are between 8,000 and 14,000 research papers published every day, which is astronomical. And so research can quickly become a little bit hard to track, to attribute correctly, and connect. This gigantic volume of papers can be a little bit hard to navigate. Also, us researchers, we tend to have moving careers. We change affiliations quite a few times in our careers. We usually don't spend our whole career in the same institute or university. And so there's a lot of turnover. There's also, just as in any organization, some natural information loss that can take place over time. For example, when someone changes institutions, well, everything that was in their drawer or in their hard drive can just end up being lost. And sometimes we can also be confronted, as in other organizations, with naming ambiguity. Two people can have the same first name and the same last name in the world. The probabilities are actually surprisingly high for that occurrence. So persistent identifiers help us make sense of that chaos. They are stable and unequivocal identifiers, a little bit like barcodes, to mark research outputs and also research actors, to mitigate those risks a little bit, those risks of wrong attribution, difficulty to track, loss of information, and turnover. A persistent identifier is actually, therefore, a unique and resolvable identifier, a little bit like a barcode, for research production records, organizations, and people. You may remember that last month we gave a webinar about metadata. It will soon be available for replay online, but the materials are in our Zenodo community. Metadata are information about a research output, like a dataset or a publication. They are information that describe the content of a research record. It's data that define, describe, or explain other data. Well, a PID, a persistent identifier, is actually a special type of metadata that is highly structured and that is submitted to an authority. We can have unstructured metadata, like a README file, like an accompanying report about the context of data acquisition, for example, or a free text list of column names of an Excel file with measurements units. That is all brilliant, and it's usually unstructured. For a human, it can make sense a little bit, but for a machine, usually it appears unstructured. We can then move on the spectrum of structured metadata. Structured metadata actually complies with a standard, usually, such as citation metadata. There's usually the same fields in all citation files, like author, year, journal, volume, etc., etc. And then some metadata go a little bit even further. They are structured, and they are also standardized and minted, managed by a third party that actually is basically the owner of the gigantic database of those metadata items. And that is the case for persistent identifiers. It would also be the case, for example, for controlled vocabularies or registries. If you need further information about metadata, I recommend we go back to the webinar, and we will definitely disseminate the link to the Zenodo entry with the follow-up email. So metadata can be unstructured, it can be structured, and it can also be subject to an authority level management. And PIDs are actually just that. They are authority metadata that are highly structured, managed, and sort of the third party that manages the PIDs actually acts as a gatekeeper, basically. I'm going to give you some examples, and you will very likely have already heard and maybe even used some of these. These are a few examples of PIDs for research outputs. We have DOIs, digital object identifiers, that you may have already seen attributed to publications. If you have ever browsed Zenodo, for example, you have seen DOIs. Most institutional repositories also use DOIs. We just saw one in the UDH Dataverse in the previous slide. They are very well tailored for publication and citation metadata. They enable stable attribution and also discovery in our favorite academic search engines like Google Scholars and Scopus. The DOIs are actually managed and minted by the DOI Foundation that repository managers can usually access through DataCite or Crossref. Maybe you have heard of these services. In any case, if you upload something on Zenodo, for example, you can get attributed a DOI. Another type of PID that DOIs are actually built on are handle or handles. I think I might use the plural a few times in this presentation. They are also used in repositories, but they are a little bit more flexible than for citation metadata, and they are also managed by a consortium, which is called, very poetically, the Handle Consortium. We also have archival resource keys, ARKs, that is usually preferred in libraries and archives. They are also a little more flexible than DOIs. They are very good at tracking records, also enable versioning, and they are managed by the ARK Alliance, which I think sounds more badass than the Handle Consortium. You may also have heard about ISBN and ISSNs. They are usually used for books, but also journals, and they also enable standardized citations. Our colleagues from the Royal Library know these ones really well. So all of these suites of numbers and letters that sometimes even look like a URL are actually PIDs. They are attributed to a research output for a life, and it enables stable citation and unequivocal records. We can also attribute PIDs not to research outputs, but to research people. We were discussing ORCID earlier. ORCID actually is a researcher identifier, so it identifies a person, which is very useful in our moving careers. We change affiliations a lot. Some people can have the same name as us. Well, an ORCID is actually granted to you for free by the ORCID organization. And if you are curious about that process, stay for the hands-on exercise after the presentations. ORCIDs are excellent at enabling stable citation, but also tracking your career and supporting the automatic CV creation, like if you need to have a resume, an academic resume. You may also have heard of RAIDs, Research Activity Identifiers, that are proposed by the Australian Research Data Common, and are actually part of an ISO norm, so it's highly standardized, and they are widely used also in East Asia, actually, to identify project and research activities. So these are not exactly research outputs, but they are research activities, and they can also be linked to people and to outputs. You may have also heard of ROR, sounds a little bit like a lion, right? Research organization registries. They are used to track research organizations. Most of our federal scientific institutes have a research organization identifier. A new player is coming in the PID game, the software hash ID that is proposed by the Software Heritage Foundation to track actually open source code. Because a GitHub link is not something that is stable and that can be used for citations. So the Software Heritage Foundation is trying to fill out that gap. And as I was saying, we have PIDs for outputs, for people, and for research organizations, for research activities. It's great to be able to attribute each of these items separately. But of course, PIDs gain their most value when they are used as a connective tissue for the research ecosystem. If you have ever seen a Zenodo publication, the record has a DOI. The people, the authors who are credited and the contributors can be credited with their ORC IDs. The research organizations to which they are affiliated can be sort of attributed with a WAR ID. If there's a data set, if there's a software that has come into play into that publication, they can also be linked to the metadata of the Zenodo entry through many PIDs. And this is actually the best practice because it is stable, machine readable, and because it brings a little bit of order into that chaos. And a colleague of mine at Liège Library is actually referring to PIDs as the connective tissue of the research ecosystem. And I really like this image because this is really what it does. In the gigantic mess of thousands and thousands of papers and codes and people that are cited every day or that come out every day, in our beautiful research world, PIDs bring a little bit of order to the chaos. If you publish something on a repository, you can usually attribute it the right PID. And that's how we can make sense of the gigantic body of knowledge that is being produced and increased every day. So to summarize, a persistent identifier is a stable and unequivocal identifier, so no risks of misattribution. It supports your visibility and the impact of your research career because it makes your production discoverable across search engines. Less admin effort. You will always have the same ORCID for your whole life. So encode once, cite multiple times. Unambiguous identification and machine readability are added bonuses of the production, the PID for the research production. That would be the end of our presentation about persistent identifiers. Let me remind you that if you have any question, you can refer to the chat. You can wait for the Q&A moment. But now that we have done the theory, I would like to give the floor to two amazing colleagues that will give you a little bit of practical application and a practical understanding of what a PID actually does for research. First, if that's okay, I would like to give the floor to you, Wim. We have Wim Vreemout here in the room, who is our colleague from KIK IRPA, and who is going to present to us practical use of PIDs, that is the Heritage Samples Registry. Thank you so much, Wim, for being here. We do appreciate your contribution, and the floor is yours. You can start sharing your screen whenever you are ready. All right, let's go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it works brilliantly. We can see you, we can hear you, so let's go.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm taking the opportunity to announce a new international initiative. We are establishing a registry dedicated specifically to heritage samples and a community around it. The scope includes material specimens from both natural and cultural heritage sample collections. Our objective is to improve how physical samples are identified, discovered, and shared. So the foundation of this initiative relies on the existing IGSN framework, which stands for the International Generic Sample Number. It's a PID system that assigns a globally unique and persistent identifier to each physical sample. On a technical level, an IGSN is integrated as a digital object identifier, a DOI. So because it operates within the data side, the DOI infrastructure, resolving these identifiers is easy. They can be resolved as DOIs or also as well as handles, because DOIs are handles. And also the N2D platform will work because that resolves almost all PIDs. While the IGSN architecture can theoretically describe sample collections and features of interest as well, our register focuses mainly on individual physical samples at this time. IGSN builds communities and specific domains. With the Heritage Samples Registry, we are aiming to build a community for researchers and organizations that manage heritage sample collections. The registry is designed to host a minimal descriptive metadata record. This provides just enough core information to ensure that each sample is globally findable and properly citable. Crucially, analytical datasets and documentation remain entirely within their native institutional repositories or project platforms. We have a website, so we invite you to explore our website at heritagesamples.org for more details. At present, this initiative is coordinated by researchers across 4 institutions in Europe. We are also fortunate to receive institutional support from several prominent European and international bodies, including major open science research infrastructures. However, to ensure long-term success of this register, we must build a global and representative community. And for this, we want to actively involve more researchers and institutions to help shape the future of the community and the resource. So for this reason, we have launched a community survey. This service is designed to gather direct feedback on user requirements, priorities, and technical expectations. It requires approximately 10 to 15 minutes to complete, and we would welcome responses from both individual researchers or from institutional representatives. You can access the survey by scanning the QR code that is displayed here or by the short URL. Thank you very much for your time. And if you have questions, do not hesitate to contact us.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Wim, for this presentation. Let's leave the barcode just up a few more seconds for everybody to be able to access the survey. Do not hesitate to contact Wim directly if you have any additional comment, question, or idea. And I could see from the previous slide that you actually are operating in collaboration at an international level, which is also one of the brilliant things that is enabled by structured PIDs, a common language, a common framework to track, well, in this case, heritage samples. But it's brilliant to see the PID philosophy and the PID principles in action. Thank you so much, Wim. Wim is staying for the rest of the webinar and will also be present for the Q&A moment. But before we go to that, I would like to introduce you to another brilliant colleague of ours. Our Belnet colleague, Peter Hellemans, is also in the room today to let us know a little bit more about the PID service and the PID roadmap at the level of Belnet. So for those of you who don't know, Belnet is the Belgian National Research and Education Network node. So it's basically the organization that provides digital services to public services at federal level in Belgium. And Belnet is offering a PID service. Peter, thank you so much for being here. And the floor is now yours. I confirm we can see your slide, we can see you. And the floor is yours.
All good, all good. I'm maybe the new kid on the block, but I will do my best to explain everything that is available. So from an Belnet perspective, we are offering 3 kinds of services. We have already addressed the price, and we are preparing the launch of the PID service to the community. For that reason, I quickly want to present to you what we have foreseen. I just have to see that my slides are moving. Okay. So first thing that we offer is the capability to register the handles and the prefix registration from your side. So it can be done under the Belnet's namespace. It enables you to create an unlimited number of PIDs because we received a question from someone that asked about certain limitations. They're not there. by default. I think if you go to the real extremes, everything is always possible. There is a limitation, but normally this should be able to handle quite a vast amount of handles. What we offer is something that works on a yearly basis, and but I will explain that more in detail when we talk about the prices. And it will also automatically renew whenever you start such a service with us. So first part is you're able to register handles in our environment. The second thing, and this is an optional offering, but a recommended one, is that you actually make use of a hosting service. That means that we are enabling an environment for you where you can have your own node in the network, in the global network, and that allows you to have as many prefix environments as you want, and then you can order in those prefixes. You can identify your different handles within those prefix environments. This is an environment where we are part of the global network. So that means that if you are aware, like a DNS environment, if we would not be there, and a level higher from us is able to do also the resolving whenever we would be out. Nevertheless, Belnet has the ambition to ensure that we are up 99.5% of the time, and we are offering 24/7 availability, so that you can highly rely on the PIDs that we offer from within our network. Plus, we have then, of course, the redundancy with the other partners in the network. Last thing that we offer is also a capability in case you are already having PIDs in another environment, and you would say, okay, I want to bring them from that environment to our environment at Belnet. Then we are able to help you in migrating those handles to our environment. This is always a one-off project because there is not a standard way of doing things. We always have to investigate what is the current situation and what is your new situation. Whenever this environment or such a migration is at a request, you can contact us. We have provided the name of the person who handles all the requests for this, as also for the two previous offerings, including the registration and the setup of the new servers. So all those things you can receive from us. For that, we have made some, I would say, it's not done by us directly, it's done by the Belnet community as an entirety or by the product owner. But we request a fee for 94 euros per year for the prefix registration. And then from that moment on, it's an annual repetition unless you cancel the subscription with us. You can also go for the host. In that case, you are able to do either a small, medium, or a large environment, which each of them have a separate pricing offering. This is independent of the registration, so this is really for the hosting environments. But like I said, there are unlimited prefixes per hosting tier possible. There is no limitation, coming back to the question that we already received. The pricing is counted across the prefixes, so it's not possible to do every time a prefix of just 49.99 and then do another prefix. No, it's counted in total, and it also works with an annual review. The only thing there is currently foreseen that inflation might apply to the service. And then again, if you want to do a project, the price is project based, so we don't have a price that is available upfront, but you can contact us to obtain that information. I'm telling you, or I told you that I'm the new kid on the block, because actually what happened is last year, for some of you, maybe already obtained information that we were ready to to activate the service late 25. But unfortunately, we had someone who fell ill for a long period. We also had someone who left, and so we reactivated a new team, which I myself are part of. We are currently reassessing what has already been set up by the colleagues before, and then we are making sure that by early September the service will be fully available. So in the meantime, please don't hesitate to contact us if you have an interest. We can already also prepare for you the environment, and then by the 1st of September, we are able to offer the full service to anyone who is interested in obtaining the service from us. That's all, Judith. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Peter. And thanks a lot for clarifying the roadmap and the articulation of our PID timeline since I think it was last November or December. Yeah, very good. October, actually. I know that some of our FSI colleagues and some of us are here today had questions about this. So thank you for addressing that. And we are sending good vibes to the colleague that is on sick leave. All right, thank you so much. Peter is also staying for the rest of the webinar and for the Q&A moment. We are actually closing in on the final part of our webinar. Let me quickly go back to the slideshow for a moment. We will move on to the final part of the webinar, but in the meantime, if I can ask you to go back to the Menti, and whenever you have a moment during this Q&A moment or during the follow-up exercise for those who want to stay, we would appreciate if you could let us know what is one thing that you learned today and what is one thing that you want to act upon or implement. You will also receive a feedback form in your mailbox with a similar question. So if inspiration doesn't strike you now, no worries, but we like to have various communication channels with you. Let me remind you that this webinar is part of the Data 101 learning track, which will take a little break over the summer. We actually have another event in June about the International Image Interoperability Framework. We just sent it out in our newsletter, and we just posted it on LinkedIn. The program is up in our wiki, and we would appreciate your participation. This one is in person, actually, so it would be brilliant to see you in real life. We also have some other Data 101 webinars that are planned as soon as we are done with the summer break. And well, I've seen from the chat that most of you already know how to stay in touch with us, but remember that you can contact Wim about the heritage samples registry, that you can contact Peter and Koen about the Belnet PID service. And for any question, you can contact us at FedOSC@belnet.be. We have a mailing list with the newsletter, a LinkedIn group, and a FedOSC project website. Thank you so much for listening up to here. I'm going to stop the recording, and we can see where we go from there.